Ice Cube has finally stepped out of the shadows, and what he just hinted at will have Hollywood scrambling for cover. Think about it, how many times have we seen black men in the industry silenced, sidelined, or suddenly erased the second they stop playing along? And now, after the tragic and suspicious death of Malcolm Jamal-Warner, Ice Cube is breaking rank and throwing his weight behind Cat Williams, the one man Hollywood has been trying to paint as a joke for years. But was Cat really ranting, or was he exposing the exact game plan that just swallowed another legend whole? Because let's be real, how many so-called accidents does it take before we start asking the hard questions? Was Malcolm's drowning really just a freak ocean current? Or was it the same old Hollywood playbook, ignore them while they're alive, glorify them when they're gone, and cover up what really went down in between? Cube's words didn't just sound like sympathy, they sounded like confirmation. And if you've been paying attention, you know this isn't just about one actor's career, it's about a system that punishes every man who dares to say no. Stick around, because what Cube just revealed might be the loudest warning yet. Let's stop pretending Hollywood is some magical land of dreams and opportunity. No, it's a factory. And the product isn't art, it's control. And if you're not willing to be packaged, sold, and humiliated, then guess what? You're either erased, ignored, or mysteriously taken out of the picture. Which brings us straight to the scandal that's been buzzing in the shadows. Malcolm Jamal-Warner's so-called accidental drowning in Costa Rica. Tragic, sure. Random, maybe. But suspicious, though, without a doubt. And now, with Ice Cube stepping into the mix, the whispers are turning into shouts. Because when Cube and Cat Williams, two men who have made careers out of resisting the machine, suddenly find themselves on the same page, you know something is cooking. Let's rewind for a second. Malcolm Jamal-Warner wasn't just some side character who faded after the Cosby Show. No, this man was layered, principled, intentional. While others sold their souls for clown roles and viral paychecks, Malcolm rejected scripts that mocked black men, turned down roles that fed stereotypes, and walked away from the so-called easy money. That's not the profile of a man who drowned quietly on a beach, it's the profile of a man who rattled cages just by existing. And that's what makes his story dangerous for the machine. Now add Cat Williams into the picture. For years, Cat has been screaming at the top of his lungs about the rituals, the humiliation, the puppet strings in Hollywood. Everyone laughed. Oh, Cat's crazy. He's paranoid, really? Then why? Years later, does every one of his claims start looking less like comedy and more like prophecy? And now Ice Cube, the man who built his career on saying what no one else had the guts to say, comes forward, co-signs Cat's warnings, and directly ties them to the way Malcolm was treated. This isn't coincidence, this is confirmation. Think about the pattern. Dave Chappelle walks away from millions because they wanted him in a dress. Cat Williams gets blackballed after refusing to play the fool. Malcolm Jamal-Warner? He didn't clown around either, and his career mysteriously goes silent. But then, right when we start to forget about him, boom, he dies in an accident. You don't have to be a detective to see how these dots connect. But the scandal doesn't stop there, oh no, because if you dig deeper, you start seeing that Malcolm was being blocked long before that fateful day in Costa Rica. Industry insiders anonymous, of course, because speaking the truth in Hollywood is a one-way ticket to oblivion, claim that Warner was difficult to work with. Translation: he wouldn't sell out. One source even leaked that he turned down a role in a blockbuster film because it required him to act like a caricature of himself. Imagine that, saying no to money because you refuse to be a joke. That's integrity. But in Hollywood, integrity is career suicide, and yet, isn't it funny how the same industry that starved him of opportunities while alive is now tripping over itself to call him a legend after his death? The tributes, the thick pieces, the recycled clips of Theo Huxtable, they're everywhere now. But where were they when Malcolm was alive? Where were they when his podcast was breaking ground on authentic black representation? Where were they when he was rejecting roles that made us look disposable, violent, or dumb? The silence was deafening. And that silence wasn't accidental, it was engineered. Now, let's bring Ice Cube back into the frame. This is a man who has always played chess, not checkers. Remember No Vaseline? That wasn't just a diss track, it was a manifesto, a blueprint, a warning about how the industry uses and discards black talent. Cube's entire career has been about resisting control, about keeping leverage. So when he says Malcolm's death smells like more than an accident, people listen. Because Cube doesn't throw words around lightly. He's not chasing clout, he already has it. He's not thirsty for attention, he's been a household name for decades. Which means if Cube is speaking, it's because the game has gotten too blatant to ignore. And that's where the scandal grows darker, because now, with both Cube and Cat pointing fingers at the system, the spotlight isn't just on Malcolm's death, it's on the entire machine. If they silenced him while he was alive and glorified him when he was gone, what does that say about everyone else who refused to play along? How many more accidents are waiting in the wings? How many more names will suddenly get the legend treatment, only after they're too dead to defend themselves? So here we are, pulling back the curtain even further. Remember how I said the silence around Malcolm Jamal-Warner wasn't accidental? Well, according to the whispers making the rounds in certain Hollywood backrooms, that silence was bought, paid for, and enforced by the very same machine Cat Williams has been screaming about for years, and the details, if you believe the so-called leaked reports, are enough to make your jaw drop. Let's start with the first bombshell. Allegedly, Warner was approached with what insiders are calling the humiliation package. Sounds ridiculous, right? But multiple anonymous sources who apparently worked in casting offices and PR firms claim Warner was offered a set of roles that all carry the same condition. He had to go goofy. A dress, a clown act, the fool, something to test whether he'd bend the knee like so many before him. One source even claimed the role was practically written for him, but when he refused, they shelved the project. Imagine that, a multi-million-dollar production canceled because one man wouldn't dance for the agenda. And what happened after that? His phone stopped ringing. First, let's talk about the alleged legal storm brewing in the background. According to rumors floating around DC and Hollywood trade circles, there are now talks of a federal probe into systemic discrimination and blackballing in the entertainment industry. Imagine that Congress dragging studio executives into hearings, forcing them to explain why talented black actors suddenly vanish from the big screen the moment they refuse to wear the dress or play the fool. One insider claims subpoenas are on the table, and that alone has enough producers calling their lawyers at 3 a.m. And it's not just government heat. Activist groups are circling like hawks. Petitions demanding an independent commission on Hollywood accountability are racking up hundreds of thousands of signatures. Civil rights attorneys are hinting at lawsuits on behalf of actors who claim their careers were quietly buried for refusing humiliating roles. Picture it, a courtroom packed with A-listers, anonymous whistleblowers, and a jury forced to watch clips of every degrading stereotype ever pushed on screen. Hollywood doesn't want that smoke. Meanwhile, the studios are in full panic mode. Anonymous leaks from PR firms suggest entire departments have been ordered to scrub Warner's name from certain internal memos that could be damaging if exposed. One alleged leak directive even said, "Frame Malcolm's legacy positively, but avoid discussion of rejected roles." Translation: they know exactly what they did, and they're trying to hide the paper trail before investigators connect the dots. But the harder they scrub, the dirtier their hands look. And here's where things take a darker turn. Multiple commentators are already predicting resignations. Imagine a high-profile studio head stepping down for personal reasons, just weeks after Cube's comments go viral. Coincidence? Or controlled damage control? If the leaks are even half true, heads are about to roll, not because the industry suddenly found its conscience, but because self-preservation demands a few sacrificial lambs. Public backlash is another beast entirely. On social media, the hashtags have evolved into a full-blown movement. Hashtag Justice for Malcolm isn't just trending, it's everywhere. Painted on protest signs outside studio gates, shouted at award shows, plastered across TikTok breakdowns with millions of views. Fans are refusing to buy tickets to certain films, boycotting networks accused of sidelining Warner, and demanding transparency from streaming platforms. And if you know anything about Hollywood, it's that nothing terrifies them more than losing control of the narrative and the money that follows it. And through all this chaos, Ice Cube and Cat Williams remain at the center of the storm. Cat is basking in the vindication. Every podcast, every interview, every YouTube clip of his old rants is resurfacing with captions like, "He tried to warn us. He's gone from crazy comedian to prophet in exile." Meanwhile, Cube's carefully chosen words are being dissected like they're sacred scripture. Analysts are claiming his support of Cat wasn't casual, it was strategic. That maybe, just maybe, this is the start of a broader rebellion inside Hollywood from those who still have leverage. And if Cube is the general and Cat is the whistleblower, Malcolm has now become the martyr. But let's not sugarcoat it. For every person celebrating the so-called exposure of Hollywood's darkest rituals, there are powerful forces already plotting the counterattack. Studio-friendly outlets are releasing fact-check articles dismissing the conspiracy theories as internet nonsense. Paid pundits are hitting talk shows, mocking anyone who dares question the official story of Warner's drowning. And yet, the more they deny, the more people believe something is being covered up. Because denial has a funny way of looking like guilt when the timing is too perfect, and that's the ultimate consequence. Even if no one ever proves foul play, even if the government probes stall, and even if Hollywood manages to spin this into another cycle of tributes and documentaries, the seed of doubt has already been planted. Millions of people will never Look at the industry the same way again. Every accident, every sudden silence, every overnight career collapse will now be viewed through the lens of Warner's story. And that distrust, it spreads faster than any studio PR campaign can contain. So here's the bottom line: whether or not Hollywood is ever held legally accountable, the damage has already been done. Cat Williams' rants are no longer punchlines, Ice Cube's warnings are no longer just lyrics, and Malcolm Jamal-Warner's legacy has transformed from forgotten actor to symbol of resistance. The industry can throw all the tributes at once, but the people know better. They see the pattern. They hear the silence, and they're not buying the accident story anymore. And this is exactly where leaves us on the edge of a cliff Hollywood desperately wanted to keep hidden. Because if the scandal snowballs the way it looks like it's about to, the machine isn't just facing bad press, it's facing collapse from within, and maybe, just maybe, that's the justice Malcolm deserved all along. So what do you think? Was Malcolm Jamal Warner's downfall just coincidence, or the clearest proof yet of Hollywood's hidden game? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation is bigger than any headline, and if you want the raw truth they don't want you to hear, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned because the story is just getting started.